As we continue our exploration into the Cowabunga summer, we are leaving the 90s behind, baby. Maybe we'll be back to talk some stuff in there. But now we're jumping to that mighty fine decade known as the 2000s. The world was changing. What happened? A housing crisis and other stuff. But it's crazy to think about how big the world changed from the 90s to the 2000s, including the Ninja Turtles. They were forgotten for a minute. We had a 2003 cartoon that was pretty good. The iteration I watched the most growing up, still probably my favorite iteration. That was on television. Nobody really did anything movie-wise until about the year 2007, where some guy who worked on the video graphics for video games said, I have a pitch for a Ninja Turtle movie. Went to Warner Brothers and the Weinstein Company, two people and two companies that are really important right now, and we should be talking about them because of the good things they do to their writers and actors. I digress. We get TMNT, 2007's TMNT, the forgotten relic of the Ninja Turtle era. Now, we should preface this by saying, this is the movie I grew up on. I have seen the 90s one more, and I have watched all those movies a bunch, but the 2007 TMNT movie was the first Ninja Turtle movie I saw in theaters. I was a young boy. I just remember sitting there thinking, well, this is the greatest experience I've had in my life. And I've watched this movie subsequent times after that. And every time I watch this movie, it just sparks so much joy into my mind because it does stuff we don't do anymore in terms of these movies and in terms of the Turtles. And like having this just exist in that bubble is such a cool thing to see. I love this movie. It's going to be very hesitant for a lot of people, and I get that because the animation is very of the era. But my God, does the animation look really good at a lot of the time and really bad some of the time. I appreciate that. This is, up until now, and we'll continue talking about these movies for a few more weeks, this is my favorite Ninja Turtle movie. This is the one I've waited to talk about. This is the one I've been super excited to talk about because it's the best one. This is a type of Ninja Turtle story in, a big movie that we may never get again, and there's a chance we are never going to see the likes of it again. It's less of a comedy and more of just like a drama and an experience, and I think that is such a cool thing to see and explore. It's like the progression of the previous installments. You could look at this movie as the spiritual successor to the trilogy in the 90s. The kids are no longer 15 to 16. They are now portrayed and behaving as 18 or 19. They've grown up a bit. They've had their battles won. They defeated the Shredder. They have grown up and they've moved on to new heights. We don't explicitly reveal the age of the Turtles, but it feels like they are portrayed as older people now. They're older. They've had this trauma as kids. They're dealing with it now. And it's so cool to experience that. This movie has one of my favorite openings for any Ninja Turtle movie ever. Probably my favorite opening. Yes, we have so we have three beginning parts. You have the one where it's Lawrence Fishburne going, four brothers named after the Renaissance artists of the time. They are these powerful people who have won their battles, defeated their demons, and now a new demon comes. And then that's part two. The Yautl, and then the general and his soldiers, and there's a battle 3,000 years ago and the stars align and a portal of monsters opens up. Look, that stuff I could give or take. Works for this movie because it juxtaposes everything we've seen going on here. But that's just insane and cool. I like it. It's fine. But the stuff that just floors me more than anything else in these movies is this opening sequence in Central America when these, evil militia guys are terrorizing this village, and suddenly they're attacked by the ghost of the jungle. And we know who the ghost of the jungle is, but nobody else does. We see this figure hanging out in the trees, having saved these people from its militia, and then April, of all people, shows up because she collects artifacts in this interpretation, and she stumbles upon the cavern in which the Ninja Turtle Leonardo is living. And this is where, right from the beginning, it's We're doing something new. Leonardo was sent by his father to go train to be a better leader. When he could come back, he could lead his team. It's no longer like a brotherly thing anymore. They're not teenagers like studying under their father. This is him taking up the ranks. But his fear and his anxiety about going back and disappointing his father and his brothers has forced him to remain in the jungle of Central America for a year longer than he was supposed to be. That's amazing. And as April's explained to him, like, yeah, things aren't really good back home. He's like, I'm sure Donnie's taking care of it. Donnie's working tech support. He has a job. He's trying to provide for his family, which is great. There's a funny sex line joke in there, and I thought that was great. Michelangelo has a job, too, where he is just, a birthday clown. And it's so fun. Cowabunga Carls. It's great. And then he's like, okay, what's Raph doing? He's like, nothing. He just sleeps all day. Then what's he doing at night? And this is where we get one of my favorite things ever. Because I love this detail. It's such a strong idea for the Turtles. Even if they're not fighting crime, Raph still is a vigilante. He becomes the Night Watcher, which I love to see. He wears a big metal suit, which does have some of that like Frank Miller inspiration behind it, which is known for the Turtles, and he just becomes like a vigilante taking care of business, who sometimes doesn't team up with Casey Jones, which is great. And the other thing I just adore about this movie is we use real voice actors for every single one of the Turtles. All of them are voiced by an actual voice actor. Nolan North doing Raphael, of course, James Arnold doing Leonardo. It's amazing. It sounds great. And just in like the opening little bit of this movie, you just get the sense that time has passed and they've all kind of grown up. Like when Michelangelo comes home from his job, he sits on the couch and he watches like the news exploits of the Night Watcher. And he's like, yeah, I remember that feeling. As if it's been like decades since he's been like out in the field, when it's probably just been like a year or so. And he's like, I remember that feeling when you just like beat them up, you can get the glory. And Don's like, just relax. Like, that was a long time ago. We've all moved on from it. I do like that feeling. I like the sense that when Splinter first shows up, he's just like, we need Leo here because we're not a complete unit without him. We're not good without him. Like, that is... So the thing is, like, this could be like an element that upsets a lot of Turtle fans, where this movie does rely on Leonardo being the center of this universe, and without him we all kind of like go our separate ways. It handles it with a different brevity than other stories would, because Leonardo is scared in this entire movie. He wants to be the person his dad needs him to be, but his brothers are so disheartened by his entire being, except for Michelangelo pretty much, that it's just, we don't really need to follow you. They'll crack jokes when he returns, but it's one of the most believable like dynamics that you see between Leonardo and Raphael, with like their tension rising, because you do understand that. And I think it's really cool. And yeah, you got like the O'Neill cargo where she's delivering like a big statue of like, look, we know from the beginning that like, Winters is the general who's 3,000 years old, and like the planets are aligning, and that we figured that out from the beginning. We're smart about that. It also feels like an evolution of the Casey Jones and April O'Neil relationship, where they're together. She wants more from him, but he's kind of like stuck in the same way as Raphael, where it's like, you miss the glory days. The two of them have a really great conversation just beating up a thug one time, just talking about like things aren't what they used to be. Like, April wants to get married and like have a family and settle down, and I'm just like, I want to go beat up a guy in a hockey mask. And I love that. I love that. It makes Casey and April seem younger, but they're also more matured now, and I appreciate that part of the story. My God, is that amazing. You just see like Raph is working himself to the bone, that he just literally falls asleep talking with Casey because of how hard he's going to like keep up this persona that he's created for himself. It's so cool. I love it. I love it. I like Sarah Michelle Gellar doing April. I like Chris Evans doing Casey. Like, they're doing like an early version of Chris Evans, so he's not the famous guy he's gonna be. He's still coming into his own, which is pretty exciting. Now, with this weird portal in the Yachtl, like when the statues wake up, they need to find the 13 monsters that were released into the world and put them back into the portal when it aligns, so Winters and his people lose their immortality. And that's kind of a fun thing. So a lot of this movie is just, we have to find these monsters. We have the first opening fight once Leo returns home, where they just like go to fight it. It's the quiet moments in this movie that I love so much. When Leo first returns home and he goes to see his father first, he's like, "I'm sorry." And he's like, "You don't owe me an apology." The burden of leadership affects us all differently, and the fact that you return it all shows that you have learned your lesson and you are capable of being the leader. But the person you should apologize to is your brother Raphael, because you leaving has affected him. I love that dynamic of Raphael, always in every iteration, doesn't want his brother Leonardo to lead and will always call him out when he's being goofy. But this is one where it's like, you left and I stepped up, not in the way of maybe like keeping this family together, but in keeping New York safe. You abandoned your home. I love that. Just like that anger, because like the oldest son got to travel the world and leave, while the younger one had to stay home and keep things going. That is essentially what this plot is. Michelangelo and Donatello have jobs. Raphael's keeping the streets clean. It's so amazing, and I just love that. The simplicity of just like Donnie and Mikey don't really have like a strong reaction to him returning. Don's just like, "Hey, you're back." Michelangelo's a little more excited because he needs his family. Michelangelo needs his family. I do not hate a single interpretation of any of the turtles in this movie. I do think it underutilizes the characters of Donatello and Michelangelo slightly, but they're not the emotional crux of this story. If we were to explore more in this universe, they probably would be, but they're not. So we have the fight where they see the Foot Clan again, fighting a big, like, weird Bigfoot thing, and then it just becomes like we're capturing these monsters, and it leads to some really cool moments. You know, one of the statues chases Raph and Casey, which is very exciting. It leads to the iconic sequence of, like, Black Betty playing as Raphael is the Night Watcher, and he walks into this diner, and he fights the Jersey Devil. And it's just really exciting, and we love that stuff. It looks so good. Like, the animation, I like it. I think it holds up, especially in, like, close-ups. And a lot of the more, like, emotionally potent parts of the story, it looks really good and it holds up really well. Like this sequence, which might be my favorite sequence in any single Ninja Turtle property ever. I love it. So after Raphael fights the Jersey Devil, and he's, like, found, because he's the Night Watcher at that point, he's like found by Leonardo, and Leonardo's like, "Look, you're doing good, dude, but you're going about this wrong. You're angry, you're aggressive, you're not getting this right." And then he's just like, "Shut up." This is the biggest, most impactful moment that I think needed to come eventually in some form of like Ninja Turtle content. The confrontation between Leonardo and Raphael. These two guys, and look, I love all the turtles. I've always been a Donatello stan. That's just me. I just think these two guys are the most arrogant and selfish and fueled by anger compared to the rest of like the family. So just the idea that they're fighting, and you just see Raph getting angrier because Leonardo was like getting cocky that he can beat him. Like when you lose control of your anger, you lose sight of everything, and he just punches the Night Watcher and the helmet comes off, and that's when he realizes it's Raph. And he's just getting mad, and Raph's like, "You got some nerve, you arrogant guy, like showing back up thinking we're just going to fall under your lead. You left us." And I'm like, yes, he did leave you. Raph, you are in the right. But Leo is in the right too, just saying like, you're letting your anger fuel you, Raph. You're going about this wrong. Like, this isn't protection anymore. It's just fueling your own ego, which is exactly what Leo's kind of doing, trying to become the leader again. And he's like, "You're sloppy, you're arrogant, and more importantly, I'm better than you." And that line, I don't think another Ninja Turtle anything would have that line of Leonardo just being like, "Raph, you're not going to listen to me unless I talk on your level." And then they fight, and it's a beautiful fight with the two of them just at odds the entire time, but sparring evenly the whole time, leading to like a really powerful climactic moment where Raph overpowers him because he has the rage and the strength in that moment. And he breaks Leo's katanas, and Leo gets kidnapped by the idol statues and the Foot Clan. And I love that moment more than I think any other in any Ninja Turtle thing. That might be, when I was a kid watching that, I'm like, holy shit, what are we doing? Why are they fighting? There's so many emotions going on. I watch it now. I'm blown away. I am blown away by what I am seeing. And it's just really good. And that is what makes Raph realize the arrogance of what he was doing and not seeing what his brother was trying to do. And that leads to the sequence where they have to go to Winter's Tower and fight their way through the hordes to get the brother back. It's amazing. Look, we have costume upgrades for April and Casey. They put on some cool costumes. Master Splinter shows up. He's like, we've been hiding for too long. It's time we step up. Just watching them slaughter a bunch. Well, not even slaughter. Just fight through the hordes of Foot Clan to get into the building. It's so good. And it looks so great. And this interpretation of Karai is great too, because she's just like, yeah, you probably know names within our genre, but you don't know me. We're probably going to like cross paths again. I love that. A great design for her too. I just really love that the whole crux for Winters here, played by Patrick Stewart of all guys, is just, I don't want to live forever anymore. So when these planets align, I'm going to kill myself. It's so good. But then his like statue brothers are like, no, you're not. You're being arrogant. You can't decide the fate of all of us for that. Sounds like it's going juxtaposition with the events of the Turtles. That's good writing. That's good writing. Then a fight, big fight. The big fight looks great. Everybody gets their moment. It looks fantastic. We're having a good time. We eventually get the 13th monster. We lead it into the thing. We close the portal. Everybody's happy. Reunited family. It works great. And Winters kills himself. And I love this because, look, it's kind of dumb. Like the planets align every 3,000 years and the monsters could come out and take over the world. I really like that it's like that type of story you need to tell to like show you like the importance of this family structure, because the villains are a family, the heroes are a family. When they are united together, they can literally stop the end of the world. I appreciate that. It is such like a quietly mature idea for the Turtles. They have grown up. They have separated. They have their own lives now, but they long for those days of like brotherly connection that is hard to have sometimes when you mature and become your own individual. It's the fear, it's the shame, it's the anger of being alone and not having your family with you. And to explore that in a Ninja Turtle thing is really cool. It was the ultimate like portrayal of the tension of Raph and Leo. It's really strong. There's some good jokes from Mikey in there. Donatello does some fun stuff. You have good portrayals of everybody. And then just like big crazy monsters, like a gargoyle one and a spider one. I can't be mad at this movie. I think it's perfect and it's fun and the script is great and the voice acting is voice actors, so it's well executed. And the animation, well, look, a little video gamey and kind of like that cheaper aesthetic. It looks good. There is money poured into this thing, and it's a shame we're never going to see a sequel to this, and we'll never attempt this type of story again. It's not like the last Ronin levels of like dark and brooding, but these are mature themes about failure and disappointment to your family that we hardly explore in these anymore, unlike this level. I just appreciate this film so much. It looks incredibly good. God, I just love it. Big monster designs, good Foot Clan designs. Everybody looks great. The voices are just great. And that the opening sequence of just Leo realizing what he left and what his brothers have become without him. Yeah, it does have like the kind of like the savior complex for Leo, which I'm not a big fan of, but I can't disagree with the actions that are taken in this movie. I think it does it well. The choices are strong. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. TMNT is a good movie. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. I will say this until I die. This is the best Ninja Turtle movie. Will it get better? It's hard to say. Will it get worse? Yes. But this is the one that I will think about every day of my life. It is so good. So amazing. So, watch it. This one rocks. And thank you all for sticking with us through the Cowabunga summer. We're reaching the end of these movies. We have 3 more to talk about. And it's going to be very exciting. Maybe even 4. We'll see what happens. But thank you all for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.